Good afternoon here from Los Angeles. Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and Aspiring magazine. And I want to welcome our guests on such a short notice. We just got it together today to get this done. And I'm going to let each of you tell me your name.
Sure thing. My name is Matt Charlie.
My name is Mark Raynes.
I'm Joe Berger.
And we are Raynes.
Senior Raynes, yes. And you're set to perform at BottleRock Napa Valley 2025. And I also know that your journey began when, if I'm correct, Matt and Joe discovered Mark on Instagram. Can you share more about how that initial connection led to the formation of Raynes?
Of course, yeah. I always start off the story by saying that really it's like a 2-hour-long story, but I can condense it into 30 seconds. Yeah, Joe and I met in college probably 10 years ago now, and we were pals. I was writing music, skipping class, and then I realized that Joe could play guitar. He said he didn't play very well, but it turns out he did play very well. And so we were playing some things together, had a couple like opportunities in LA, but we didn't really have a singer. Like Joe and I can both sing, but we were like, we're not lead singer material. Long story short, we just went on the internet. We scrolled through what was a Craigslist, Facebook, Instagram, and one day, sort of a needle in a haystack situation, I just came across a video out of nowhere of this guy looking younger and with slightly worse hair than he has now.
Terrible.
But his voice was beautiful. He was playing a cover of a song, and it was a beautiful voice. And I showed it to Joe, and I was like, man, I know this guy's in England, but we got to get him over here. So we were getting our hopes up, but trying not to. And I reached out to Mark, and 10 days later, he was on a flight to Los Angeles.
Beautiful. Sounds like some synergy there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your music often features intricate vocal harmonies and diverse instrumentation. How do you approach the songwriting and arrangement process?
Oh boy, see, that's another 2-hour-long answer. No, it's interesting. We've often said we've done it. We have two ways of writing songs because we're a transatlantic band. At the beginning, for like many years of our career, we were not really in the same place at the same time. Mark was in England, Joe and I were in the States, and so we had to make something work. So a lot of the times we would send voice memos back and forth, and someone would have an idea and we'd flesh that out. But for me, like I write a lot of it, and it's just because like I'm just constantly writing songs just for whatever. But I think we've hit on something unique because we can all sing, and I really enjoy just that process of the arrangement and the composition and figuring out how to make it like a catchy, listenable pop song, but still have a lot of sophisticated instrumentation and performances and harmonic colors and all of that. So
I know that you have also a unique blend of folk, rock, and chamber, correct? And chamber pop, I should say. How would each of you, describe your sound to someone who hasn't heard your music?
Great question, and one we often find difficult to answer because there are so many different elements to it. And I think the reason for that is, as a collective, we all have a fairly similar music taste, but there are some differences individually. And I think I grew up listening to John Mayer, was my big influence growing up, playing guitar and that sort of songwriting. And then Joe, you grew up listening to country and all
hip hop,
and then Matt with all the Celtic stuff
and bluegrass bands, Irish folk bands, listen to the Beach Boys all the time. You can hear
that. So because of all three of our different influences, I think that kind of has come together to create this sort of unique sound. Because you're right, it's at its core, it's pop music, but then it's with world instrumentation and folk instrumentation and crazy harmonies. So it's quite hard to box it in. Just beautiful music.
Yeah, to answer your question, Valerie, my answer, if someone were to ask me to describe it, is I would just say no. I can't.
You can't.
We've tried for literally years and it's never quite right. But
we often say folk pop just to make it easy for ourselves, but that's probably not doing it justice.
Yeah. Your music blends various genres and influences. Which artists or genres have most shaped your sound and style? I know you started to talk about that, but if you can expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, again, for me, John Mayer has been a huge influence on me personally, on my guitar playing and vocal performances. And then Matt, you love Beach Boys, Kate Bush. I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah, for me, it's like there are a lot of artists who I love, yeah, anything with like intricate vocal harmonies, Beach Boys obviously, and like really strong songwriting. But for me, it's more about just specific ideas. I have a note in my phone where if I hear a good production idea or a good lyric or whatever, I just note that, and that you can find that anywhere. So I'm just constantly on the hunt for anything like that. There's not one specific artist where I'm constantly fishing in that pond. What would you say, Joe?
Oh, can't hear you.
Hello. Of course you can't, because I muted myself. There was an airplane going by. So thank you for telling me you couldn't hear me, so I didn't waste any more breath. But you were going to say something more about it, right?
Me? I wasn't actually,
Oh,
because
you were just going to tell me I was muted.
no, yeah, I'm just into a lot of stuff, and I don't know if I can pinpoint any of that in particular. That would be a strong influence. Yeah, these guys said it all.
Not to belabor the point, but I know that your band has been cited as having influences by also Coldplay, Mumford and Sons, Beach Boys. Can you relate to that? How do these inspirations maybe manifest in your music?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I think for us, we are never. I don't think there's been one point ever where we've said, let's try and write a song that sounds like Coldplay or like Mumford and Sons. Not, and a lot of artists like do that, which is great. That can work. But yeah, I personally am a big Coldplay fan. I'm sure that's coming out. I love like the atmospheric sort of just pretty, the glitter, all that stuff.
And also like the anthemicness of them, I think we can mirror sometimes, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But we love the big choruses and sort of stadium ready songs, which Coldplay definitely has too. And I think the Mumford and Sons thing definitely makes sense because it's a bunch of guys playing folk instruments with harmony and sort of foot stomps and all that sort of stuff. I think earlier Raynes was definitely more in the vein of Mumford and Sons. We are starting to evolve slightly more towards Coldplay, maybe
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think a good thing, and I'm speaking for our turn because I'm not sure if this is true, but it does seem, but it's hard for people to hear one of our songs and immediately say that sounds like X or Y, right? Because there's so, even if it's like a Coldplay-ish chorus or a Mumford and Sons sort of guitar strumming pattern, it's never close enough to one of those artists where it's like on the nose, which I think is a good thing.
I know that before we started recording, you were saying that you're in Salt Lake City. Can you tell us what you're doing there?
Yeah, we're playing a show at Kilby Court on Thursday. The problem is I don't know the exact day of the week, but by the time this comes out, it's probably going to be happening already. But yeah, we're playing a sold-out show at Kilby Court in Salt Lake City. It's going to be awesome, and this will be our second time back to Salt Lake in the last 6 months, so it'll be great. It's our first ever headline tour, so it's been really, really exciting. It was terrifying at the beginning when we were putting it all together, but so far, so good.
Well, if it's with you guys, my family, my nephew lives in Salt Lake, so I'll be contacting your publicist from you, but I won't be there. We're going to go into BottleRock a little bit more about that. What can fans expect from your live performance at BottleRock, and are there any special elements or surprises planned?
Ooh, I got a good answer for this.
Okay.
Okay, so when you end up seeing us at BottleRock, you're going to find quite a few things intriguing. Number one, Mark's voice is unbelievable. So if anyone's walking by while we're playing, they're going to hear Mark's voice and be like, oh, what's that? Then you got Matt over there, and we call it the space station. He's got 2 keyboards in front of him and about 4 other instruments, and he's playing all of them dang near at the same time. And our drummer, Dino, he's just crushing it back there. He's keeping tempo, and I'm sitting over there, an unbridled horse.
You're not sitting over there.
I'm hopping.
You're around, yeah.
It's a high energy. It's an experience to see us live. We all truly believe that, and I think BottleRock is gonna. Once we play, people are gonna start to understand what Raynes is all about. And also, I think because we've been doing this for so long and had various speed bumps along the way, the past couple of years that we've been able to play shows finally, I think we just really are so grateful to be able to do that. So I think that comes from what we hear from feedback that we've received. It seems like we're having a great time up there and we interact with each other just because we're so happy to finally be able to do what we love doing. A lot of smiles and a lot of fun on that stage too. That was great.
I hope that I'm not speaking out of turn and this is like a surprise or anything, but your upcoming EP Bloom is set to release on June 20th, correct?
Correct.
Yep. All right. What themes or inspirations influence this new collection of songs?
Man, you're asking me all these questions where I've got a whole thesis prepared. I got to narrow this down. Yeah, so we think of the whole, I don't know, Raynes experience as there's a through line in it, right? We're not doing like the, I don't know, to use maybe the wrong word, like the eras thing, where like you do one thing and then you take a hard right and go do another thing and kind of try on different personas. Since the very beginning, we've used a lot of like floral and natural elements, and we always call like our watchword is organic, right? Because we're using real instruments and not a bunch of synths, and we're like really performing it. And so our EP before this was called 49, which was about the gold rush, and it was very like desaturated and a lot about death and bare branches and things not growing in the desert. And so the idea was, we knew that we were going to be releasing this during the spring, and it felt like, I think like in life and in our careers and things were going in a certain direction where it felt like things were, to use the word, blooming. Yeah. And for me, I'm a big like art guy. I get into the arts and crafts movement, like the William Morris prints and like the florals and the birds and all that stuff really seemed just to cohere with the chamber pop and the strings and all of this. So it's an EP about hope and growth in a way that, for example, our last EP was about despair and death. So we're moving on.
And beyond Bloom, we're going to start winding it down here. What are your plans for the rest of 2025? And are there any upcoming projects or tours that the fans can look for you at?
I'll say there's definitely an upcoming full-length project. That's all I can really say right now, not because we have a gag order, but we're just in the process of working it out. But we're excited about that. That should be before too long. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and we also, BottleRock is coming pretty much midway through our tour. So we have plenty of dates after BottleRock, which we're really excited about. And then we are, I would imagine, probably going to hit the road again at least one more time before the year comes to a close. So still working out some dates, but if you look on any of our social media, you can find the remaining dates on this tour. And then once we start adding other dates, they will be announced as and when they come in.
You must have read my mind, because that was my last question, is how can our viewers and our readers find each of you, your website, your social media handles? You can both go around the Zoom room here.
Oh, no one's going to find me. The only thing that I have is just Raynes music. I just use our stuff. I don't have personal stuff just because who's got the time.
But yeah, best way to find us will be on the Raynes channel. So at Raynes Music, Raynes Music, which is pretty much on every platform. The website is also the same, www.raynesmusic.com. Yeah, we're pretty consistent across the board. That's
Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Lemonade, Tidal, I don't know, whatever they have, Blue Sky.
It was a joy meeting you virtually. Valerie Milano, the HollywoodTimes.today and aspiringmagazine.com. And I will tell Michael and Megan that will be at the show to make sure to try to stop you as you're running on and off stage to say hi and enjoy the wine. I'm going to miss the wine there in Napa so much. And I'm going to enjoy just the camaraderie that BottleRock brought into my life and into the Hollywood Times arena as well. So keep up the great work, guys. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure being here.
Bye-bye.